Even if Shaquille O'Neal stands on one freaking leg and he's distracted, he sees like this nice girl coming through and he's like, oh, there's a nice girl, and he's on one leg. For some reason, he's on one leg. And I take like a 50 freaking meters head start, run my fucking ass off to try to shove him. He'd still not move. It is time for the Cleric to get some love in the playtesting material of the 2024 edition of Dungeons & Dragons called One D&D. And as you might know, outside of the Fighter, it's actually the Wizard and the Cleric that are my favorite classes to play in 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. So let's look into this PDF, because there's a few things that I really like, there's a few things that I'm kind of worried about, and there's at least one thing that I absolutely hate. Hi there, fellow roleplayers and game masters. My name is Mr. Drosk. Long time no see, but you probably know why that is. Anyway, I want to talk about this right here, the new Unearthed Arcana 2022, the Cleric, and on the revised species of species things that live in the Dungeons & Dragons world. And I want to talk about this. I've been flipping through this on my phone. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been flipping through this on my phone. I've been seeing a bunch of stuff that I like. I've been seeing a bunch of stuff that I'm kind of about, and I'm seeing one thing that I absolutely hate, which I talked about in a previous video. But I just want to scroll through this with you, talk a little bit about it, and how I think the future of D&D is kind of bright. I know there's a lot of people who are like, 2024 is going to suck. I don't like One D&D. I don't not like what they're changing. But I personally always think like change is at least it is attempted to be for the better. So I'm just here to enjoy the ride and see what they're going to do with D&D, because after all, it is the system on which my games are based. Although I'm not using a lot of like first party stuff in my games, I'm using their set of rules for the third party stuff that I play at my games. So yeah, I just want to see what they're doing with it. So the Cleric and the revised species. So they go into all kinds of stuff like, hey, the power level might be off, but it's playtesting, blah, 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 blah. They talk about like the class groups again. The priest is part of the, the Cleric is part of the priest group together with the druid and the paladin, which I still think is a little bit weird, but hey, I'm all for that. And then they go into the Cleric, and it's immediately weird for me, right? Because right here, they say that it's Cleric right here, and for some reason it doesn't fit my screen. Let me just try to adjust that really quickly. Boom, there it is. And boom, there it is. Now it fits my screen. So the first thing I'm seeing right here is the subclass, which they called subclass, which I don't like. Subclass is a meta term. It is a term to describe something in a game, but not in a world that is in the game. So a subclass is, for me, it's like hit points. Like normally when I hit somebody in real life, I'm not gonna say, hey, you just lost 7 hit points, right? No, his nose is probably bleeding, or I lost a tooth, one of the two. So it is really weird that they say subclass right here, which they didn't in the original. I got my player's handbook right here. My original 2014 player's handbook. No, I'm lying. My 2014 player's handbook fell apart completely, so I got another free one from Wizards of the Coast. And there is this. Here it is on level 1. You choose your divine domain, and they talk about your divine domain, which is what way cooler word. Firstly, so it's the divine domain. You're a cleric, you have a domain, and it's what your specialty is. Now, I have to say right here, they talk about the Holy Order, which is something that I think is really cool. It just really sounds really cool. But the thing that's got me worried and got me like pondering is they are constantly saying how One D&D is going to be backwards compatible, if that is even a thing in RPGs, with 5th edition. But how is this going to be backwards compatible with the Cleric of 5th edition? So I'm sitting down at my table and I'm playing some Kobold Press material, whatever, and one guy is like, so I'm playing the original Cleric from the original handbook. I'm playing the Cleric right here. I got this handbook, bought it with my own money, and I want to play this Cleric. And the guy next to me is like, yeah, it's cool, but I got like the new player's handbook 2024, brand spanking new. It's got like, it's like doesn't have any scratchers or whatever yet, but I want to play the Cleric that is in there. How is that going to be backwards compatible in a way that he gets his subclass at level 3, and I get my subclass at level 1, which is really weird, and I hope it just works. So what I'm guessing is kind of like you choose whether or not you're playing the Cleric from the first book or you're playing the Cleric from the new book, and you stick with that for the rest of your game. So let's talk about the Cleric for a little bit. So you get like your D8, everything. And one thing that I think is immediately cool is the Channel Divinity. So you still have like the Turn That ability, which the Cleric always has. I'm just skipping through my book right here. So the Cleric has the, where is it? The Channel Divinity, the Turn on That. I don't know if it's still like mechanically the same, but there is still a Turn on That feature. But there's also a Divine Spark feature, which I really like. As a magic action, which is a new type of action, which is not a spell, but it is a magic action. It's probably to, again, and this is something that I really like about One D&D, is where they taking certain rules and words and everything and putting them in like a group of words that all have like the same ruling around them, which simplifies stuff for me. And I like simplification in RPGs, because for me in RPGs, sitting down and playing and pretending like I'm an orc or pretending like I'm a human that can cast spells and not looking up rules. That's what I like about D&D. So as a magic action, you point your holy symbol at another creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself and focus divine energy at them. Roll a number of d8s equal to your proficiency modifier. So if I'm not mistaken, right here at level 3, let's say just level 3, sorry, let's say level 5, because that's a cool level. That's 3. That's 3d8. So 4.5 plus 4.5 is 9, plus 4.5 is 13.5. So let's say 13. You roll 13, equal to your proficiency bonus, and add the rolls together. You either restore hit points, 13 or 14 HP, to the creature equal to that total, or force the creature to make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes radiant damage equal to the total, and on a successful save, the creature takes half damage. On a non-successful save or something, takes half as much damage rounded. Is there wait, on a failed save, the creature takes radiant damage equal to the total. And on a successful save, the creature... So, I think this is a really cool thing to have as a priest. Also something, and I don't think this was in the old one, I just need to look this up. That's why I just want this stuff to be correct. So, Divine Domain, sorry, you have your Channel Divinity. Use your Channel Divinity, you choose which effect. You jump channel at the beginning at 6th level, blah, 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 blah. 2 such effects... Channel Divinity energy directly from the deity using the energy fuel magic. You start with 2 such effects, turn that, and effect determining your domain. Some domains grant additional effects. So, in the original one, you only get 1 Channel Divinity per short or long rest, right? 1 Channel Divinity, which makes it cool, which makes it special, like that moment where you turn on that, where you're like, be gone, undead, and you show your holy symbol, and you're like, fuck off, undead, go do some undead stuff somewhere else. But here it is, you can use your Channel Divinity a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So I'm sitting next to the guy who's playing, so I'm playing this version, and another person is playing this version, right? So I'm sitting next to the guy, and I'm like, yeah, I'm playing my Cleric, it's cool, it's 5th edition Cleric, it's always cool, live domain Cleric, you know, always cool to play. And he's like, yeah, Channel Divinity, Channel Divinity, Channel Divinity. And I'm like, hey, I only get 1 Channel Divinity per long or short rest, which is not fair, right? So they kind of try to balance this by saying long rest, while with this one it is a short rest or long rest. But still, this one gets way more Channel Divinities, especially at the higher levels when your proficiency bonus goes up, and I don't like that. That's a power spike. The difference is way too big, especially since they get a turn on that, which I get as well, and they also get the Divine Spark, which is really, really cool. And I don't get it. So why is this going to be, how is this going to be backwards compatible with that? So I'm really wondering about how they're going to handle that. Although, don't get me wrong, I think this is a cool class. I think the Divine Spark and everything, and getting your subclass at level 3 is also really cool, because that gives you like something to work towards. Or maybe what I like about that is like you start at level 1 and you might not know what you're gonna take on level 3. It depends on like the party you're playing with, and you get to know the people, and you're like, you know what, we don't really need another like full-time healer because we got a druid and I'm a cleric. I can heal a bit, the druid can heal a bit, maybe I'll just take another domain. So that's what I like about only doing it on level 3. So there's spellcasting, and this is also something that I really like. It's a really cool difference. Holy Order. You have dedicated yourself to one of the following sacred roles, either on your own or as a part of a religious order. Choose one of the following orders. Protector, which is basically the cleric that stands on the front line, trained for battle, martial weapon proficiency, heavy armor proficiency. Which normally, if I'm not mistaken, if you took the live domain, you'd get that stuff. But now you get that stuff. You could combine that stuff with any domain. That's another thing that I really like. So you can take a, I don't know, what domains are there? Knowledge domain. And normally knowledge domain doesn't come with armor proficiency or whatever. That said, live domain does, but with this system, actually you can get armor proficiency and be like a knowledge domain cleric, which is really cool. Which I have always thought was, I always thought that was like a kind of like a bad design choice, that only like the live clerics got to be like the cool clerics with the armor and the mace standing in the front line healing people. There's a scholar. More lore and the gods and the multiverse. You gain proficiency in 2 of the following skills of your choice: Arcana, History, Nature, Perception, and Religion. Ability checks give you a bonus modifier equal to your Wisdom modifier. Oh, you can add more stuff to those skills. And then there's Thaumaturge. Delving deeper into the divine magical abilities, you can prepare 1 extra 0-level spell. They're not talking about cantrips anymore for some reason. From the Divine Spell List. Spell lists, the Divine Spell List, Arcane Spell List, and Prime Spell List is the best thing to come out of One D&D for now. 3 spell lists, that's it. Not per class, but just per magic type thing, right? See your spellcasting feature for more information. You gain 1 expanded use of your channel divinity whenever you finish a short rest. So there you got it. Now I'm sitting next to the guy, and I'm doing like 1 channel divinity, and he's spamming channel divinities, and we do a short rest, and I got my 1 bag, and he gets another 1 bag as well. So he has way more channel divinity, which, yeah, I think there's a power spike kind of difference there. Other than that, there is the subclass. There's the Smite Undead, which is really cool. You can either, each Undead that fails its saving throw against that uses turn Undead takes radiant damage. And they don't take half damage on a failed one, which I think is kind of a shame. Blast Strikes, which is just what it says it does more damage. What did I wanted to talk about? There was another thing that I wanted to talk about in the... So there's the live domain. Healing spells are empowered by life itself. When spell you cast, spell slot restores hit points to a creature. That creature regains additional hit points on the turn you cast the spell. The additional hit points equal 2 plus the spell's level. Wasn't that for the live domain cleric normally? Wasn't that like a little bit different? Blast healer, 2 plus the spell's... Okay, no, it's still the same thing, but... Right here, it's on level 3, and here it is on level... Oh, okay, so the level. Okay, preserve life. Channel Divinity. Heal a group. This is really cool. To heal a group of critically injured. As an action, you expend 1 use of your Channel Divinity and present your holy symbol, restoring a number of hit points equal to 5 times your cleric level. Choose any creature within 30 feet of yourself. Any creatures within 30 feet of yourself, and can include yourself, and divide those hit points among the chosen creatures. The feature cannot can bring a creature's current hit points to no more than half of its hit point maximum. So this is really for like a group of people who are almost critically injured. You can like heal all of them. Let's say you're level 6, that's 30 HP divided among a bunch of people around you, which is really cool. So you got Blast Healer, Supreme Healing, and then we go into character species. And this is a interesting subject, because what they did is they changed the word race into the word species. And I couldn't care less. I know there's a lot of people on the internet who are like, oh no, you took away the word race and now my ego hurts or whatever. I don't give a single rat's ass about that. As a matter of fact, if it helps people not calling it race and calling it species, I'm all for that. My English literal little knowledge is not good enough to like separate the word species and race, but the way I see it is race is like different races from the same species. So human can like be black or Asian or white or whatever. Scandinavian, there's all kinds of like races within the human species, which technically biologically there isn't, but let's say there is, but there isn't. But species is more like, oh, there's humans, there's elves, there's orcs, they're all species. They're all a different type of people, and they're all a species that walks the earth or the material plane you are playing on. So let's talk about these species. They're talking about 3 different kinds. The Ardling, if I'm kind of like pronouncing that correctly, the Ardling, the Dragonborn, and the Golliath. I'm really interested in the Golliath. The Golliath has always been one of my favorite species because they're kind of based on the gods, the giants, and I really love what they did with them. Now the Ardling is also really interesting. I don't see myself playing an Ardling ever, but I see a lot of people playing them ever and a lot, because I know a lot of people who just like to play like these animal creatures, because that is what they are. They are humanoids, but they have animal features. So they might have an animal head, and they might have like feathers depending on the creatures they originate from. If they are a bear, they might have like a lot of hair on their body and have like a long beard, kind of like the Bear King from Kobold Press. And it's really cool. And this is one of those hey, let's combine rules into one set of rules kind of simplification that Wizards is going for with this edition, and I really like that. So the Ardling, for example, in Kobold Press has a species called Tabaxi, which is a catfolk race. It's catfolk, it's basically just catfolk. They call it Tabaxi in the Southlands Players book, in the Southlands World book, but it is basically a catfolk. With this, you can build your own catfolk from the Ardling. The Ardling is basically like, hey, you are a animal type person, and you can choose whether you are small or you are medium. So you can choose between 4 and 7 feet or 3 and 4 feet. So small or medium, giving you a different type of set of rules to play with like sneaking around and going through people's spaces and difficult terrain and all that. But if you want to play a catfolk, Tabaxi, you just take the climber subset of this race. So the climber could be a bear, cat, lizard, squirrel, or any other creature that is known to be able to climb. You have a hooked claws, sharp nails, or a serpentine tail. As a result, you have a climb speed equal to your speed, and once per turn when you deal damage with an unarmed strike, blah 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 blah, proficiency bonus, unarmed strikes. There is also a flyer, bat, eagle, owl, raven. You have a vertical, you have vestigial wings. As a result, when you fall at least 10 feet, you can use your reaction to safely glide downward, taking no damage. In addition, when you take a jump action, you can jump way further, blah blah blah. There is also the racer, and this is really funny. There is a deer, normal creature, dog, normal creature, horse, normal creature, and a freaking triceratops. It's really funny to have like this group of like suddenly boom, drop in a fucking dinosaur, right? When you take the dash action, your speed increases for that action. The increase equals 10 times your proficiency bonus. So, for example, if you want to play a monk with unarmed strikes, it's really cool to pick a climber like a cat, but it's also really cool to be like based on a horse or a freaking triceratops and be a racer. Now, I as a dungeon master would absolutely, for the sake of flavor, give somebody this, but if they want to resemble a cat, they can, because a cat for me is also like kind of a racer, right? There's also swimmers, you can hold your breath and you have swimming speed, so that's really cool to have. For an Ardling, you have one species. I wanted to say race, but I didn't. You have one species that is based on all of the animals out there, and you choose which one. So you choose if you're a cat folk or a squirrel person or a raven folk or whatever. And they also get divine magic. You know the thaumaturgy spell, and blah 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 blah. Then there's the Dragonborn. I'm not really interested in Dragonborn anymore. I think they're so I don't like them anymore the way I like them. They even get like draconic flight if you take the Dragonborn. They get flying speed and everything now, which is cool if you want to play that, and if you're into that, and if you're like, oh, I'm a Dragonborn paladin, I got wings and I can fly, I'm the best, I'm an angel, I came from the divine gods, and now I'm going to fly above you and smite you. If you're into that, absolutely cool, just not my cup of tea. Golliath, on the other hand, really cool that they did it this way. So you get a bunch of stuff from being Golliath. You're a humanoid, medium, 35 feet speed, lifespan 80 years, giant ancestry. So now, instead of getting like a fixed set of stuff, like your carrying capacity doubles, you now choose from which giant you are, which giant is your ancestry. So, for example, a Clouds giant gives you a bonus action teleport. A Fire giant can give you, with an attack roll and deal damage to it, you can cause 1d10 fire damage to the target, and all of these types of giants give you different types of powers. Then they get a feature that I don't really like, and it's the large form. Starting at 5th level, which is basically anytime when you have like a race and you give it stuff at later levels, people tend to forget about it because it's their race, it's not their class. People are not every level looking up their race again in the book. They're not like, oh, I need to go to my class for hit points and spells and all that stuff, and I need to check my race to see if I get anything at level 5. That's not what people do, and I hate that. I absolutely hate that from a mechanical standpoint. Starting at level 5, you gain the ability to supernaturally grow. As a bonus action, you change your size to large, provided you're a big enough space. This transformation lasts for 10 minutes or until you end your bonus action. End it as a bonus action. During the duration, you have advantage on strength checks, and your speed increases by 10 feet. Once you use this trait, you can use it again. And they're still powerful build. Like, I don't like the large form. I know you have the Grey Dwarfs, forgot their name, the Durgar, who have this. And I've always found it weird. I love the Durgar. I love everything there is to love about dwarves, but I always found weird that you have like this medium-sized creature and suddenly it turns large without like really using magic. It's just an innate ability, which I think is really weird. It's just, I know we're playing a game with dragons and everything, but still, that I think is weird. So that is about it, about the species, that's about it, about the cleric stuff. I just want to quickly talk about what I think is cool. And then we go into, there's the 8 spell, which is a new version of the 8 spell, gives you 5 temporary hit points. And they also talk about something here that I wanted to talk about. There's a lot of spells in here, right? Spell list. And I really like this. Like I said, there's an arcane spell list for the arcane spellcasters. There is a primal spell list for the primal spellcasters. And there is all of that stuff. Okay, here it is. I'm gonna say it. Here it is. Sorry, here it is. Unarmed freaking strike. I hate this so much. It is somewhere here. Where is it? They hid it for me because they don't want me to read it. Where is the unarmed? I'm gonna Control F the crap. Control F. Unarmed strike. Oh, I didn't. Unarmed. Oh, it's right. Alright. So I still hate this. I still really hate this. An unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves you using your body to damage, grapple, or shove a creature within your reach. So I'm standing in front of Shaquille O'Neal. Big dude, muscles. I mean, if you see that guy, if you see pictures of that guy eating a freaking apple, it looks like he's eating a freaking miniature apple. He is physically trained for his entire life, and I could try to slap him, dealing damage. That I can see. Like, I'm standing in front of him, he's looking the other way, maybe he's distracted, then bam, I'm slapping him in the face. I do damage. I need to jump in order to, as a part of that attack. Technically, that's impossible because jumping is an action, but, you know, I need to, like, because I'm way smaller than him. But then there is grapple. If I hit with my unarmed strike, like if I hit Shaquille O'Neal, if I am able to touch Shaquille, to hit Shaquille O'Neal on his armor class, not like just, I get to grapple him. Just not, yeah, he gets like an escape, but the target is grappled. I get to grapple Shaquille O'Neal, meaning if I would grapple Shaquille O'Neal, it would look like I was just hanging from his back and just walking with him. He would be still walking around. He would still be as mobile as he would have been before that, but I'm just hanging on his back. That's the only thing that's happening when I try to. So this absolutely does not make any sense in my head. Like, none at all. Shove, same thing. I mean, even if Shaquille O'Neal stands on one freaking leg and he's distracted, he sees like this nice girl coming through and he's like, oh, there's a nice girl, and he's on one leg. For some reason, he's on one leg. And I take like a 50 freaking meters head start, run my fucking ass off to try to shove him. He'd still not move. In all seriousness, the last thing I want to talk about is the exhausted condition. While exhausted, previously known as exhaustion, you experience the following effects. I really like this because normally with exhaustion, when somebody's exhausted and they gain a new level, you always have to like open the book and look like what was like the second level and what effect did the third level have and what effect did the fourth level have, which was really hard to keep track of, especially if more people had it than you and they were all lazy and you as a dungeon master needed to like keep track of that. Now you just have levels of exhaustion. You die if you have 10 levels of exhaustion, period. If you reach your 10th level of exhaustion, you freaking die. And all that happens is you subtract the number of your level from any D12 roll, any D12 test. So that's an attack roll, an ability check, and a saving throw. If you roll that, you detract your level from it. So if you have 6 levels of exhaustion and you need to make an attack roll, you have a -6 on your attack roll or your saving throw, whatever, giving you more chances of death. So if you need to jump across a freaking spiked trap pit, chances that you fall into that spiked trap pit are higher, and they get higher the more exhaustion you have. So it's really easy to just write down on a freaking piece of paper, or you have your players write it down on their character sheet, like I have this much levels of exhaustion, just one level of exhaustion, 2 levels of exhaustion, 3 levels of exhaustion. It's the same with spell saves DC. Subtract the exhaustion level from the spell save DC. So you cast the spell and somebody needs to make a saving throw in order not to take damage or be entangled by roots that come out of the ground or whatever. They have a more chance to make that saving throw because you're casting these spells with your eyes closed, right? And ending the condition is finishing a long rest removes 1 level of exhaustion. So if you're really exhausted and you've been traveling through the mountains, whatever, it's just realistic. When you've been traveling through the mountains, fighting dragons, fighting yetis, fighting, I don't know, all kinds of stuff, and fighting the bitter cold, and having not a lot of stuff to eat, and just be completely, utterly exhausted, let's say 7 levels of exhaustion, you need to take a week of proper rest in order to kind of like rest up from that. So that really makes sense, and it is just something that that's what I like about it. Once you know this rule, you don't have to look it up ever again. All you do is just look up the rule once in your player's handbook and be like, how many levels of exhaustion do you have? 4. Okay, subtract 4 from that roll from now on. All your rolls 4. So I need to make a DC, what's your save DC? It's 16. Okay, but you have 4 levels of exhaustion, so that becomes a 12. So I need to roll 12, and they're like, oh man, this sucks. And if it gets 10, you die. That's it. That is it. I really like the exhausted condition, what they did with that. So whoever designed that, It is much simpler and much better. And that's basically all I wanted to talk about for the Unearthed Arcana of December 1, 2022. I know there's a lot of stuff that I'm kind of like bitching about, but that's just my job as a YouTuber, right? No, I'm serious. Like, I'm really excited for this, but I'm also like, I have my own opinion. I have a strong opinion on many things, and just stuff needs to be simplified for me, and it needs to make sense in my head. And that's why some stuff just really doesn't make sense when I read it, and some stuff is really cool when I read it. I'm still kind of worried about the backwards compatibility of the entire system, but heck, if it isn't for us or it isn't for me, whatever, I'll just stick with 5th edition, because basically 5th edition is just a rule set that I use to play other stuff that's on my shelf. So it's just the skeleton of the system that I use in order to play other stuff that is not of Wizards of the Coast. But I'm still also, I really want to help out, I really want to give my opinion, and I just want the 2024 edition to be really good. I want it to involve people who might otherwise have not felt involved before, or enough involved before. So I really like that they're kind of doing that, changing some stuff around from like race to species. So until next video, bye bye.